Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the design process that is used in the Project Lead the Way curriculum. In this presentation specifically, we will discuss how to describe the word design, also what is a design process, and then we're going to take a look at various design process examples that are used amongst the industry and in other literature, and the design process that is specifically used in this course, IED. Starting off with what is design, the word design is often used as a generic term that refers to anything that was made by a conscious human effort. Design is also a process that is used to systematically solve problems. As defined by the ITEA Standards for Technological Literacy, a design process is a systematic problem-solving strategy with criteria and constraints used to develop many possible solutions in order to solve or satisfy human needs or wants and to narrow down the possible solutions to one final choice. There are, of course, various design processes that are used across different technical fields. Here, a look at some of those now. This one is referenced in Design and Problem Solving and Technology, a textbook that I remember reading back when I was in college, actually. And so this was broken down into 9 different steps: identify problems and opportunities, frame and design brief, investigate and research, generate alternative solutions, choose a solution, developmental work, model and prototype, test and evaluate, redesign and improve. The next one that you'll see here was also another textbook that I have. And again, this one's broken down to 9 steps, but you're going to see it's kind of the same language. You're basically doing the same thing each one of these steps. So identify the need, define the criteria, explore, research, investigate, generate alternative solutions, choose one to work on, develop it further, model and prototype it, test and evaluate it, and then redesign and improve it once you've figured out what you got going on. This was the design process that was used in Project Lead the Way about 10 years ago or so. It was broken down into 12 different steps. I'll show you the graphic for that. But it's basically the same thing, just kind of broken out into some different areas that were then documented in your engineering notebook accordingly. Flash forward to what we use today in IED. It's a 6-step process. Define the problem, generate your concepts for it, develop a solution, pick one of those concepts you came up with and work on it. From there, you get to the fun part where you get to construct and test your prototype. And then, of course, you'll have to evaluate your solution to see how well did you design it and did it turn out the way that you expected it to. And then lastly is to present that solution and to maybe give a presentation to your peers or to publish your work on your portfolio, something like that. There has since been a graphic update in the year 2020, and so I'll show you that at the end of our presentation. Design processes used in IED is just an example of one, as you saw before. There are many used and that exist and that are effective, of course, across different technical fields. But however, we feel that consistently applying a single design process will definitely provide a better basis for your understanding moving forward throughout all of your Project Lead the Way courses. Right, so starting off with the very first step there, defining a problem, just taking a look at what are some of the action steps you would want to do when engaging in this. And so initially you want to identify what is a problem. And when doing that, you have to ask yourself, who says it's a problem? You have to validate it, right? And so what are the needs and wants for it? Are there any prior solutions for it? But really, who says it's a problem? If it's just you and one other person that thinks, oh boy, this idea would be great just for me, versus, hey, I have an idea that might affect hundreds of people, thousands of people, the whole world, that is something that would be worthwhile and definitely something that you want to try to do. So again, moving forward from there, you have to justify the problem and say, is it worth solving? Is there enough effort that I can put into this that I would get something great out of it? And then from there, create some design requirements. These are your specifications, which we call criteria and constraints. And then lastly, you would write out a design brief, which is just a formalized 1-page document, usually kind of summarizing this is all the work that I'm going to engage in moving forward. So here you see a written plan that identifies the problem to be solved, its criteria and its constraints, all that good stuff. And then used to encourage thinking of all aspects of a problem before attempting a solution. When you get to the end of define the problem, you think you got everything working, there's like a little check valve, as I call it, before moving on to the next step. And it's just a question you have to ask yourself: is the problem valid and justifiable? If yes, great, you can move on to the next step. If no, then you might need to go back and tweak some things or just pick a different idea to work on for now until you figure things out. In some cases, if the problem is not valid, you must redefine and move on. Moving on to the next step, generating concepts. This is where you get to do some research and brainstorm possible solutions, consider additional design goals, apply your STEM principles, and then ultimately select an approach by using a decision matrix, which is just a nice little chart that you can put all of your ideas on one side and then some different categories across the top to evaluate it. And then you assign these numbers between 1 and 5 or whatever you want the scale to be, and that would hopefully allow you to organize all your ideas and thoughts amongst all your ideas and give you a very clear indication of which one would be the best one to move forward with at this time. We'll have a separate presentation later on for brainstorming solutions. That'll be a whole separate thing. And again, you get to your check valve here. Does the needed technology exist? You've generated some concepts, you've picked an idea with your decision matrix. Does the needed technology exist? Are you able to actually complete what you want to do right now with what we have going on? If the question is yes, then you can move on to the next step. If the question is no, your idea is maybe something that's more theoretical. If the technology is not there, then you might need to go and conduct some more scientific research in order to pursue that solution. So either way, if you're ready to move on, you can go on to develop a solution, which is where you're going to create a detailed design solution and then justify that solution path and include your technical drawings. So for the most part, you're going to be taking your ideas that might just be words or maybe a concept sketch at this point, and then be further developing that into a 3D model or something that you can have on the computer. It could be a 2D model, whether you're going to make it for the laser cutter or the vinyl cutter, or you're going to 3D print something or put it in the ShopBot CNC. You have to figure out which way you need to then create your technical drawings. And these, of course, will carry all the vectors, information, and material and size and shape, and assembly parts if needed. All the things that you would need to do in order to develop your idea, all the different parts and pieces you would create in a digital sense, and then present that moving forward. When you get to the end of developing solution, again, you have your check valve. Is the solution valid? And really, this is just taking a moment to think about, hey, I've got this idea now that I've hammered out. Does it actually still, in fact, relate to the problem that I asked myself at the very beginning of this process? So you just have to remind yourself, am I still in my lane with this idea? And if no, maybe if you veered off in a different direction, but it's still pretty great and you want to continue it, that's fine. You just have to go back and redefine your problem, tweak the wording, and then move on. If yes, then move on to the best step, in my opinion, the most fun that you get to have, which is actually constructing and testing your prototype. So taking those digital files and then bringing them out to the machines in the makerspace and getting a chance to actually put these things to real life. So constructing your testable prototype. And then with that, you'll also have to plan out how you want to evaluate how well your prototype performs. And so think about some different categories like usability and durability, and then actually test that prototype, collecting that data, analyzing the data, and then providing any test reports if that is related to what you're doing. From there, you have another check valve. Is your prototype valid? Kind of like the last one. Does the prototype still match the solution that you defined? And is it still, in fact, working on the problem that you defined initially? If no, again, you just go back, tweak some things so that it does fit for what you're working on. If yes, you move on to the fifth step, evaluating your solution. With this, you get to reflect on your design and also recommend improvements for the future, and then optimize and even redesign your solution, maybe make another prototype or two to make it optimal. And then from there, provide any project recommendations moving forward. Your last check valve is, does your solution solve the problem? So again, just kind of revisiting everything. Does it solve the problem? And then if yes, you can move on and actually then present those solutions. And so with that, you might either be updating your information on your project portfolio, which we'll keep online, or communicating that project and presenting it to your peers, or doing something of that nature. All right, what's great about this design process is you can go back at any time and fix something so that it does work with how you've kind of organically worked your way through these steps. And at the end of the day, hopefully we feel that by following these steps, you'll come up with much more sound ideas. And then I did mention that in 2020, there was a graphic update. This is what the Project Lead the Way graphic looks like today, but it's the exact same 6 steps and has all the same information that you're trying to highlight in those steps. So they just kind of package it into a different looking graphic. And again, here you see those steps and just detailed out like you saw on the slides prior to this. So with this, hopefully folks have a better understanding of how a design process works. And then using this design process moving forward, you can hopefully create some great ideas. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.